I'd like to introduce Nigel Beatty now, because our journey across with the motor yacht APSA is going from the Pacific to Japan. Nigel is the current chairman of APSA, and he knows the super yacht industry well. Starting in the Royal Navy, he moved into the yachting world and started as a super yacht captain, working on both charter and private yachts. Nigel moved on shore in 2004 and now runs several super yacht businesses, including Super Yacht Logistics Japan. Nigel's going to show us why we should all go cruising in Japan. Over to you, Nigel.
Hi, everybody. I guess you can hear me okay. My name's Nigel, as Susie just said. I'm here in Japan. Good evening. I want to give you guys a few facts about Japan. A lot of people know that we're over here somewhere in the east. They don't know the geography or the facts. So I just wanted to throw a few facts at you and wow you a little bit about Japan. Japan has approximately 127 million people living here. It's the world's third largest economy. North to south, we're about 3,000 kilometers, 1,620 nautical miles for the seafarers. Geographically, 24 degrees north to about 45 degrees north. And I'll go over some geographical comparisons a little later on. We've got just under 7,000 islands in the archipelago. The coastline is actually 50% more than the United States and 15% more than Australia. So we have a lot of cruising here, a lot of cruising. It's safe and it's very clean. So Tokyo's dominated with about half the population living in urban areas, and the biggest city, in fact, the biggest urban area in the world is Greater Tokyo with 39 million people living there. If Tokyo was a country, it would be the 8th largest economy on the planet. So it's a massive area. It's got more Michelin stars than Paris, London, and New York combined. It's got an ultra-modern infrastructure with a 2,600-year-old history, which is intermingled within it. And there's also the big, megalopolises of Greater Osaka, which is over 20 million people, and Greater Nagoya, which is over 10 million people, and various others around the country. So I thought it'd be good to do some geographical comparisons so you understand. People have cruised in Europe, cruised around Australia and New Zealand, and cruised over in the States. So I did some geographical comparisons. This is where Japan would lie if it was mapped over Europe. And actually central Japan, we've got sort of a Mediterranean climate. We've got olive groves and things like that. So wine regions. And so you can see where it will lie. And then this is more comparable with the weather systems we would get in Japan. So I know a lot of people here have cruised the eastern seaboard of the United States down through the Bahamas into the Caribbean. If you were to take the top of Japan, we would be right up in that fun cruising area, the Bay of Fundy, north of Halifax, Nova Scotia, if anyone's been up that way. The middle of Japan would be somewhere around the Carolinas, and then down, all the way down to maybe the Exumas in the Bahamas. Fabulous cruising ground down there in the Bahamas, but very similar weather conditions down there. And then if we were to switch Japan upside down and take it down under and lay it off next to Australia and New Zealand, we would sit like this. So the northern part of Japan would be somewhere around Dunedin in New Zealand in the South Island. And then the southernmost island of Japan, Ishigaki, would be right up by Gladstone, Queensland. So we also have the same sort of climatic situations as those places. And getting there by yacht. So I did this graphic actually for when I did a presentation at the Australian conference, but there's lots of runs up from Australia, especially. We've had some yachts this year coming up from Australia, going up to Papua New Guinea, through Papua New Guinea, up through the Caroline Islands, through Guam, to Ogasawara, which is the first point of entry, and then Ogasawara up to Yokohama. The last yacht that did it was a little expedition yacht, and they did it in about 21 days, and it was flat calm the whole way. It's less than 4,000 miles, so that's less and easier than going from Fort Lauderdale across to Monaco, which is about 4,500 nautical miles. You can see the yellow line right at the top there going into Hakodate. That's coming across from Alaska. We do have yachts come across from there, Adak is the last jumping point from Alaska, and it's about 1,800 miles over to Hakodate, which is about the same as Bermuda to the Azores. And getting in there and getting around. So if you're not going to go in by yacht, or or guests are coming to join the yacht, there's about 100 airports around Japan. About 50% of those are international airports. Major airlines in Japan, JAL and ANA, but all major airlines around the world fly to Japan. Most airports are private jet capable, and some have jet centers. There's an extensive and affordable domestic airline network as well throughout Japan. And then we also have the famous Shinkansen, the bullet train. And there's a map of the bullet train. It actually goes off to the left a little bit more. It's cut off right there. But you can get all over Japan very, very easily and very efficiently by the bullet train. The yellow line that runs there is the Tokaido Shinkansen. That goes from Tokyo to Osaka. And on certain days of the year, there's a bullet train leaving Tokyo for Osaka every 180 seconds. Every 180 seconds with 15 cars and over 1,000 people on board. That's certain days, travel days of the year, but on a normal day, probably every 5 or 6 minutes. And then when we get down into the big cities, you get local rail areas. And luckily, the Japanese give you a very easy, simple rail map to work from. This is the Greater Tokyo Rail Network, which always staggers everybody. There's 158 rail lines at the last count. They're building more all the time. Over 5,000 kilometers of tracks, 2,300 stations, over 40 million trips per day, just in the Greater Tokyo area. 45 of the 51 busiest train stations in the world are in Japan. And Shinjuku, which is right in the middle of Tokyo, is the biggest train station in the world. It's got over 210 exits, and 3.6 million people per day go through that train station. And that's like the population of New Zealand going through 5 times in 1 week, the whole population. So there's very advanced phone apps to get you around, in fact, and everything runs to the second, so it's pretty good. And now I'm going to talk about some yachting destinations, some nice pictures there, some pictures of southern Japan over up in the top left-hand corner. Below that, Yokohama, the Bay of Yokohama, which is one of our ports of entries. Below that, with the bridge on the left-hand side, bottom left is part of the inland sea. The middle picture is probably the worst water hazard in the world. I've played that golf course, and it's a fantastic place down by Nagasaki. Which is Nagasaki City is pictured over on the top right. And then, of course, the iconic Mount Fuji. And we have a destinations map with basic destinations. There's year-round cruising in Japan, as you saw from the geographical size of Japan and the climatic areas. 5 main cruising regions. The yellow at the top is the Sea of Japan and Hokkaido in the north. The yellow area, the sort of browny yellow area below that is Tokyo to Osaka. Then we have the inland sea, which is the green area. That's 3,000 miles long with 3,000 islands. And then we have a blue area around Kyushu, and then a sort of pinky area down to the southern islands of Japan. So first of all, what I call Honshu South, which is the island of Honshu, Tokyo to Osaka route. And we often, yachts usually clear into Yokohama, and then they cruise that route. They take guests on in Yokohama, and they cruise that route all the way down through the Izu Islands, Atami, Mount Fuji, Nagoya, Ise, Wakayama, Narita, Osaka, and then go and base out of Kobe for their next trip. And then the inland sea of Japan, as I said before, it's got 3,000 islands and it's 300 miles long. And it's bordered, as you can see, by main islands, which are mountainous. So that not only cuts out the ocean swells from the Pacific Ocean, it also cuts out a lot of the weather as well. So you get microclimates all over there, and lots of anchorages and calm places. So we have yachts cruising for weeks on end through there, months on end actually, through there, and don't go to the same place twice. And then we have a kind of more of an adventure circuit up here, which is up the backside of Japan, the That's an unfortunate phrase, actually, but on the Japan seaside of Japan and up to Hokkaido. Lots of wild and wilderness areas, some great places to go. That's heading up there. Lots of wildlife and things like that. And that city that you see down on the bottom left-hand corner is Hakodate, right up in the northern island of Hokkaido. Then we have Kyushu. Kyushu, cruising around Kyushu is fabulous too. You're getting more into sort of warmer climates, more tropical climates, especially at the southern end of Kyushu. You have the fabulous city of Nagasaki. Over on the central left-hand side of your screen there, you see the city of Kagoshima with the Sakurajima volcano in the bay right outside the city. And then we move on to the southern islands. Kagoshima carries on down to Yakushima, which is a World Heritage Island. The entire island is a World Heritage Site, and there's microclimates on there. There's usually a constant cloud cover right on that island. It's blue sky all the way around it, but it generates its own cloud cover from the moisture and the wetness actually on the island. But then all the way down to Setouchi in Amami Oshima, Okinawa, Zamami, Miyako, and Ishigaki Island, right at the very bottom, which is only about 100 miles off Taiwan. So it's a day run over to Taiwan for certain yachts. There's good regulations for yachts in Japan. There's no time limit for foreign vessels when they come to Japan. There's no food restrictions on arrival as long as you're not throwing them off the boat. Initial clearance into Japan is fairly normal as other places. Takes about half a day to go through all the departments. We have a thing called NACS here now that the agents can access, and we access that. That's electronic system, so we do all your clearances all around Japan from place to place electronically. There's a cruising permit system is in development. It's partially done, but it's still in development. Crew visas, visa waivers, and crew passes are all available to crew when they come to Japan. Extended crew pass system is in development for certain nationalities. And we're slowly easing regulations, and that's all gathering pace. And then we've got good yacht infrastructure and services, good marinas for yachts from 90 meters to 150 meters, up to 90 meters. We've got lots of marina space. We have good commercial docks as well. That central picture there is in Nagasaki, and that's a commercial dock. It's beautiful. You could sit and have a picnic on there. Agency and super yacht services with staff that have worked extensively on super yachts in Europe and Americas. We also have good shipyards and maintenance services. We can take any size yacht in the shipyards and they're immaculately clean. Yacht ports of entry are throughout Japan, and that's when a yacht is coming from overseas. And then simple and fast movement of parts and people and services around Japan. I showed you that infrastructure, the travel infrastructure before. It's easy to get parts, people, and services to different ends of Japan. Hammerhead Marina is a development in Yokohama. That's a picture there of Yokohama Bay. And we're still developing this marina. It's going to have 750 meters of linear dockage. We can already put boats there. As you see, Motor Yacht A was there. 90 meters of that will be stern to dockage as well. So 90 meters of that linear dockage will be able to be used as stern to for any size yacht, for any yacht that's ever been built. And then I'm going to flick through some visions of Japan, and we're going to go through these fairly quickly, but just to give you some visuals here. So festivals all over Japan, especially in the summertime, and a lot of yacht owners like to tailor their trips to the festivals. Japan's very cultural, as you probably know. The food is fantastic. Actually, a French guy that comes here quite a lot, he says French food is the best food in the world, but as long as it's cooked in Japan. Art is great in Japan. Contemporary and traditional stage shows, pop, everything we have here. Professional sports, they were the world champions in baseball a few times. We've held the Rugby World Cup, we've held the Football World Cup, and personal recreation is great in Japan as well. Skiing, surfing, hiking. You can relax in Japan. There's beautiful resorts, great onsens and hot springs. Cities are vibrant, crazy, clean, exciting, and safe. And the wilderness in Japan, Japan's an archipelago, so it's great to cruise the wilderness by yacht. The people are wonderful. They like to eat and drink and have fun. And the history in Japan is evident everywhere. We have great yacht infrastructure, as I already said. So please come to Japan. I've got one more slide. Thanks for listening.